Don't be boo. For more videos like this one, please subscribe to this channel.
Because it chills the vodka coming down into your mouth.
There you go.
To break something up on these waterfalls right here.
Yeah, exactly. This is the exact kind of thing. What a transition, Jen.
Although you need a little more frozen ice here. You get the water still moving. It's the middle of January. What's happening here over Western New York?
But you see what's in the middle there?
This is cool.
Is this not the coolest waterfall you've ever seen? It's an eternal flame. It's called the Eternal Flames Fall, I should say, in Orchard Park. In this small grotto here, you actually have natural gas, which can be lit to produce this small flame. So you have this fire and ice here. Yeah. But this should be all frozen over.
Right, exactly. And so inquiring minds want to know, where is the really cold air? Why isn't this all frozen? And by the way, is the cold air coming back anytime soon?
Let's get to it. Yeah. Because our temperatures right now, even through the northern tier and the coldest spots, typically, we're only into the 20s and the 30s. You have to go deep into Canada to find that cold air.
I mean, Churchill, Manitoba, the polar bear capital of the world, should be below zero right now. We are 25 degrees.
Yeah, even into Alaska.
That's not normal.
I mean, you know, down into places like Anchorage, it's warm. But if you go to northern Alaska, that's the cold air. But if you really want the cold air that we're talking about,
we have it.
You have to go over
58 degrees below zero. So there is cold air. A piece of the polar vortex has broken off, and some of that is down here. So what is the polar vortex? That's your next question, right?
Right. So we've used this term, you know, it went viral a few years ago, but we've been using this for 100 years. And it's essentially, and we'll show you, the circle of winds right around the pole. And sometimes they will weaken and drop down some of that colder air. So first, let's talk about how we get that cold air at the poles this time of year.
Exactly. So the tilt of the Earth, that's why we have the seasons, is why that it's colder in the northern hemisphere. In the wintertime, it's tilted away from the sun. So we're not getting direct sunlight at all, and almost none actually up here in the North Pole.
No, of course, it's all in the southern hemisphere, and that's why Australia feels the summertime right now. But what happens with all this cold air? You see that ribbon that's around the Arctic? That is basically a little jet stream that keeps it all just tight right around the North Pole.
Yeah, and the thing about the polar vortex is actually happening high up there. Like, go to the altitude where planes are flying in higher, and that's where actually it exists. But when you get some perturbations within that, some of the colder air can spill out. The polar vortex itself can split into pieces, and when this happens, you can get some of that colder air all the way down.
All the way down, right? So it's not just going to stay in the upper levels of the atmosphere. That cold air is going to sink down. But what causes that cold air to break off and come down, say, into the U.S.? That is quite complicated. To leave it at that, Jim.
Yeah, to say the least. And you know what? How come nobody talks about the polar?
Yes, and because today is Dress Your Pet Day, National Dress Your Pet Day, we actually were asking people for pictures. But before we get to that, we want to show you the very gusty winds over the northern plains. Just kidding. We're going to go back to the pets. Welcome to live TV. There they are. You guys have been sending them in for us, pictures of your dogs, your cats. Those are the only types of animals that we've seen dressed up here. But these cute faces, you can't get enough of that, right? I like this one, very Christmas themed. Keep them coming in. We got the rain boots here for this dog, and also whoever's taking the dog out. This one was one of our favorites too. Look at that Shane and Punum, as we say, the little cute face for you. Anyway, keep your pictures coming to us. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we've posted all over, and that's where you can respond. Now we want to get to some of those gusty winds, because if you're taking your dog out, it's like a little dog warning. If you have one of those tiny dogs, you've got to watch out, because look at our winds in a place like Goodland, Kansas. Now, Goodland officially gusting to 66. Of course, as you go up in elevation, you're going to lose some of the friction of the buildings, the trees and everything, so your winds are going to be stronger as they go up. Now, I always think about winds and driving on the highway. So if you're getting on the highway this morning and driving 65 miles an hour, imagine if you hit something, it would be a big accident. It would be bad. So think about winds going that strong and then hitting an object. It can obviously do some damage. And Jim, as a carpenter sang about, we've only just begun. This is going to be a long duration event, so it has time to weaken and weaken and weaken and weaken objects.
I like how you marry.
I mean,
I'm itching to get outside right now.
Jim made a declaration. I will cook dinner outside tonight. I don't care what the temperature is. He's ready. You'll be nice and warm over that barbecue.
Yeah, well.
All right, let's talk about travel here. And we have freezing fog advisories. A lot of these last, you know, not much longer here, because you're going to get that sun to come up. But you have liquid water droplets that freeze on contact. So you just have this layer of fog that's kind of hanging there, little suspended particles of moisture, and they freeze on contact. Now, in order to get fog, the relative humidity has to be at or near 100% at ground level. Now, whenever you hear 100% relative humidity, I feel like you might think Florida. But if you have temperatures, the air temperature is 32 and the dew point is 30, that's near 100% relative humidity. So that has nothing to do with the actual how hot the air is. It has to do with the temperature, dew point, and how close they are together. We're down to now 0. This is where we're really concerned about some of that black ice, Jen, especially at bridges and overpasses.
Yes, for sure. Be safe. Nobody hit the Mega Millions and Powerball this week, but their jackpots, more than $600 million each. Now, here's a lottery you do have a chance of winning, one for a national park. Joining me live now to explain is Caroline Teel, managing editor of Smarter Travel Media. Caroline, the lottery system aims to keep certain parts of America's park system from getting too crowded. Coyote Buttes North, home of the famous Wave, is one of the most popular. So what are the odds of winning a permit there?
So in peak season, the odds of winning a permit for the Wave are about 4%. So it's not Powerball jackpot, but it's still pretty tough. And that's because they only let 20 people in per day here. So they give away 10 permits in a 4-month advance online lottery the day of. And then, 4 months in advance, and then 10 permits on the day.
Okay. No, so that's tough to get. Now, let's go to Alaska. The 92-mile-long Denali Park Road is also at the top of many wish lists, with 11,000 people applying every year. So how many people actually get permits? And why are folks gambling with the weather also in this lottery?
Yeah, so they only give away about 1,200 permits for over 4 days in September. And how far they can open the road depends on the weather. So you could win the lottery and then only be able to drive like 15 miles of this 92-mile-long road.
Wow. Oh, that would stink if you had terrible weather and you couldn't go at all. Now, a self-guided raft trip down the Grand Canyon used to have an insanely long wait list for 27 years. I can't imagine. So explain why this one is so popular and why people who have previously applied might have a better chance of winning than first-timers.
Yeah, so the wait list used to be really long because people, I think, just want to do the rafting trip themselves. They don't want to go on a guided tour and have to deal with somebody else's itinerary or, hang out with other people on the tour. And they have a weighted lottery. So this gives a preference to people that were on the wait list before, because if you're on the wait list for, 26 years, you should get a better chance. And then people that haven't been rafting on the river in a long time. So it's a good way to make sure that kind of more people have a chance to win.
Yeah. All right. The Half Dome Cables Lottery at Yosemite's most famous attraction is extremely popular, and it's difficult in more ways than one. Tell us about the multitude of challenges.
Yeah. So first, you're going to have to hike like 14 to 16 miles just to get to Half Dome. And then to finish your hike, you're going to have to haul yourself up this series of steel cables and wooden planks up this really steep incline. And the National Park Service actually puts up these steel cables to help people up. But they're only up to mid-October just because they're there. And obviously, they don't want massive crowds there, so they limit it to 300 permits a day. And a pro tip, if you really want to go, you should apply on a Wednesday because that's the least popular day.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Good tip. All right, quickly, Phantom Ranch, the bottom of the Grand Canyon, one of the most exclusive accommodations in the world for several reasons. So why is this one on so many bucket lists?
Yeah, this one's on my bucket list. I've applied a couple of times, haven't won, but still keep on trying. So it's not exclusive because of the cost. It's only about $65 if you want to stay in one of the dorm rooms. It's because it's located at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So being able to sleep at the bottom of the Grand Canyon and also have access to, running water and hot meals instead of camping is pretty special. And the only way to get there are to hike, mule ride, or raft your way in. So you can't drive down.
Caroline Teel, managing editor of Smarter Travel Media. Thank you so much for giving us some new ideas to put on our adventure list here. We can plan pretty far in the future, 27 years. All right, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Let's check out.
Gust of 77 miles an hour in Rapid City, uprooting signs, trees. The highest gust we've seen in South Dakota, 93 miles an hour in the town of Buffalo. So let's talk about where we have seen some of our top wind reports. And there they are for you, not only in Buffalo, South Dakota, but Wilson, North Dakota. North Dakota kind of leading the list here. Nebraska in on it as well, with a gust to 86 miles an hour. And those advisories still stick, literally, North Dakota all the way down into Texas. You can't escape this thing just because you're south of it. It is a massive, sprawling system here, and we actually have these blizzard warnings for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states this morning, and the snow is still coming down, Jim, with this system as well. It's not just a wind producer.
What is it, about 1,300 miles of wind, just the wind advisory?
Just wind, just wind.
Okay.
That's just wind. I want to talk more about this system in the Midwest because I was looking at some of the numbers, and we have anywhere from 1, 2, 3, up to 4 inches of snow essentially from Minneapolis right now down towards the Rochester area, and we're going to get a couple more inches before all is said and done. And there are your blizzard warnings. It doesn't matter how much snow is on the ground; it's just blowing that snow around. This thing is massive. It's huge. And here's the thing: a lot of that moisture is on the west side of it. So spots like Alberta, Minnesota, just about here, we could get another 1 to 3 inches today, winds gusting to 30 miles an hour. On Saturday, Mike was talking about those temperatures. They come down behind this. Our high is going to be 25 in Alberta, on Saturday, and our average this time of year for this area is in the low 20s. So we will get knocked back down to size here for Saturday temperature-wise, and the winds are going to diminish as well. So we have to deal with the winds yet again today, and then tomorrow, it's going to be nice and calm, and this is going to be in the Northeast, whipping it up. Jordan has that in just a second. But you see the forecast. Because this is not a well-defined compact low, it's cut off from the flow of everything. It's just kind of sitting here being messy. It's like when the kids have nothing to do, all they do is make a mess, right? You need to keep them focused.
That is so true.
It's so true. So if you keep them focused on something, there's not as much of a mess. This thing gets pushed out by our next system coming in, and here's again those totals. 1 to 3, some of us will see up to 5 inches, but not a huge snowmaker for the day, Jordan.
Yeah, and you can't get mad at them because they're entertaining.